Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to look at Warts and All, collection of the comic strips drawn by Drew Friedman and written by his brother Josh Allen Friedman. And this was published by Penguin Books. This was a kind of a major step out of the comic book ghetto for comic strips in the late 80s, early 90s, probably due to Art Spiegelman's influence. Penguin was publishing all kinds of great stuff. Major publishers, I think they did the Jimbo book by Gary Panner. They obviously did those little Raw, the last three Raws. If Jimbo wasn't Penguin, it was another mainstream publisher. So it was so weird. There was this little golden age for 2 years where all these amazing cartoonists were being published in mainstream, distributed in mainstream bookstores. And this is one of them. This is 1990 and kind of the height of that. And man, if you guys haven't been reading Drew Friedman, if you never did, this is going to blow your mind. I mean, look at this cover, guys. This makes Basil Wolverton look lazy. This is insane amount of pointillism and stippling and crazy. You know what's a beautiful thing about this book, guys? I don't know if you can tell, but I'll try to do it. Maybe you can see all the warts are embossed. They're raised up. This has a texture to it. You can feel all the warts. I almost want to pop one. But this is just a beautiful cover right here. I'm pretty sure that was made. This was made just for the book. It's a slim little book, kind of oblong, weirdly shaped, but it's gorgeous. We have a nice little front piece here. Drew Friedman loves to draw just like ugly old men. That's basically his forte. It's like Frank Frazetta draws amazing barbarians and hot ladies, and Drew Friedman's like the opposite. He loves drawing just gnarly old men. There you go. Edited and designed by Art Spiegelman, R. Sikoryak, and Francois Mouly. This is kind of a coup. They got Kurt Vonnegut to write an introduction. I don't think Kurt Vonnegut writes many introductions, even for like fiction and stuff. But he's obviously a fan of Drew Friedman. I love this first strip. It's an homage to that famous EC story written by Al Feldstein, written for Wally Wood. He even takes the exact same logo. You'll never see a logo like this in any other Drew Friedman comic. And it's almost like a parody of that. Like, this is my world. A world of beloved, delightful, memorable characters enjoyed by millions. And we see all the characters that Drew Friedman loves to draw. Rondo Hatton, Lord, oh shit, I can't remember his name, but we'll see him later. Tor Johnson. I love this. He starts to write, "It is a world of hateful, miserable, callous, sinister, scumbag real estate." And then Donald Trump, his word balloon is crowding out. You can't even read the rest of the caption. He's like, "Hold it, friend. You're a fucking cartoonist. I've never heard of you and I never will. Include me out of this shit, okay? Jerk off." Probably one of the first attacks on Donald. Well, actually, that's not true. If you grew up in New York, everyone hated Trump even back then. They knew what a turd he was. And it's kind of, this is very early, way before he had any political aspirations. So basically, Drew Friedman loves to do that. He loves to celebrate like the grade Z actors and that guys and circus freaks. Just all the weird things in pop culture. The weird and not pretty. I like this, how he even draws him and Josh as these two old men, the kind that he loves to draw. Look at the face on this guy, how great that is. That is just, it's remarkable, his art style. Sitcom characters in search of enlightenment. This one's great. Nightmare Gallery of Mentally Disturbed Teachers. And this is Josh Allen Friedman writing about the teachers he remembers from high school and what fucking maniacs they were. One of his teachers was a closet homosexual, a child-hating civil servant. Just lots of weirdos. That's the thing about Josh Allen, Friedman, and Drew Friedman's comics. They're just cruel. I mean, I gotta say, I find it hilarious. But I'm sure if they ever made a comic about me, I'd fucking cry. I mean, it's really cruel humor. This poor teacher who never developed breasts, and she's all crying and jealous of the teenage girls with big boobs. Here's the carpetbagger. And there's a couple of stories of this guy. His name is Martin Rosenberg. And they're really great little stories. It's about this guy who I guess was he was basically a slacker until he was 30. He was living off his bar mitzvah money. Then he has to get a job. And he's just this kind of a loser. He works with this Jehovah's Witness guy who's got a really positive outlook on life. Man, look at this. The texture on his face here. It's just incredible. But he's not very popular with the ladies. I like that he's so unpopular with the ladies. He imagines that there's meetings of women who are talking about him. Under no circumstances was any of us put out for Martin Rosenberg. And they even see a mother teaching her daughter at an early age. If you ever cross paths later in life with a Martin Rosenberg, never have sex with him. Here's Penthouse publisher Bob Guccione. I didn't mention, these are from so many different weird sources. National Lampoon, Screw Magazine. A bunch I'd never even heard of. Of course, great undergrounds like Weirdo and Raw. Well, kind of undergrounds. Here's another Martin Rosenberg story. I don't know where these are from, but these are not that familiar to me. I mean, I read this book back in 1990. But over the years, Drew Friedman is in almost every great anthology I have. He was in every great anthology. So I've read a lot of them a bunch of times. But these are really great. Kind of unlike his other strips, because this guy's not a celebrity. It's almost like, autobio type stuff. There's another one about Martin with his girl problems. And he joins a dating service. And I like how he goes to the office and he's just like, listen, I know this sounds shitty, but I just want to date 9 and 10s. Don't waste my time with dogs and ugly women. I know it's shallow, but that's what I need. And of course, they proceed to send him a stream of women that are not very attractive. In fact, incredibly unattractive. He even goes to the point of surrealism where this one woman looks okay and she opens her mouth and she's like a Basil Wolverton character, like a monster. So, of course, he gets pissed off at the dating company. He's like, fuck you guys. Grown men who sell comic books? They are comic shop clerks of North America. Look at these fucking faces. Some of them are just not even human. Nobody's ever had that bad skin, ever. Maybe after a nuclear bomb fallout situation. Here's Rondo Hatton again, or at least lookalikes. Dames make the man. And this is just about some elevator man who, I'm sorry, it's not just the elevator man. It's all these kind of losers, like a janitor and the guy who works at Roto-Rooter. But if you put a really hot lady on their arms, it really ups your cred. This is called Stooge Women. I don't know how much of this is based on real interviews, but it's all of the ex-wives of the Three Stooges, talking about their ex-husbands, talking about the drama behind the scenes. Supposedly they hated each other. At least some of them did. I love this. Hollywood's wildest love duos. And they're totally just like, yes, this is the most repulsive couple ever. Ernest Borgnine and Ethel Merman. And I think they did actually date. We see Rondo Hatton again. Apparently, Joan Crawford was gaga for him. Tori Johnson and Marilyn Monroe. God, I love that picture. Look how beautifully he draws Marilyn Monroe. That's like Hans Bach would be jealous of this kind of pointillism. This is my favorite, though. It's the woman from Gone with the Wind, Hattie McDaniel and Tallulah Bankhead. Oh, man. This is about an old Jewish couple in the Catskills. This is a little character piece. Very funny. This is like probably his epic, the closest thing he has to an epic. It's longer than most of them. I don't know how much of this is based on reality. You can never tell with the Friedmans. Joey Heatherton. And it's basically Joey Heatherton. She's giving a speech at a college, her alma mater. I'm sorry, it's her high school. And she's telling her life story, talking about how she was a child celebrity, or at least wanted to be. She was trained to be one by her parents who were in the business, taking dance lessons when she's like 5 and stuff. And she was already appearing in TV shows and movies when she was like 14. And pretty soon she got kind of pegged as a sex doll, a sex kitten. It's a pretty good like Hollywood story, you know. And of course, you know, she wanted to shake that appellation, being a sex object. Because she could sing, she could dance, she could act. I don't think she did any of them that well. But she was kind of talented, and she wanted to be respected for that. But eventually she realized that's all she had. So she finally bares her breasts in a movie. She has a bunch of crappy marriages. And she starts abusing drugs and alcohol. And she ends up in a mental institution. Her friends and family committed her. And it seemed like it drove her crazy. When she got out, she kind of did some crazy shit, like attack a guy with knives. And I like how at the end, though, she whips off her gown. And she's just like, let me teach you kids how to do the slut dance. So she's unrepentant. This was a thing that Drew Friedman, these would pop up in so many anthologies, but they were basically these postcards that he would sell. These fake movie posters. And they're so bizarre. Duty doll, a sexational step in sexual intimacy. Look how fucking weird this is, this sexy Howdy Doody puppet. Vampira from, Plan 9 from Outer Space. He loves that whole cast. All that kind of drecky 50s stuff. Zach Early, the cool ghoul. Lon Chaney Jr. is the scary guy. Freak Show Girl. Starring the mule-faced woman. I don't know if she was like a famous sideshow attraction or not. But he just comes up with the best titles. This Bela Lugosi Tor Johnson vehicle is called We Aim to Spook. I would totally see that movie. So here we have Bela Lugosi's scariest role. And God, his art is so nice in this. We see young Bela Lugosi when he was just a matinee idol back in his native Hungary. So of course he comes to America, and they talk about his addiction to heroin and morphine, and how, of course he was Dracula, but after that it was just a slow descent into crappier and crappier movies. And he didn't live well. His friends were all surprised at how bad he looked when he was out of makeup. He aged very poorly. And here we go. The Rondo Hatton story. And I never knew about this. I thought acromegaly, the disease that makes you look like that, I thought it was something from birth. But apparently he got it whoa, sorry. He got it in World War I from like some poison gas, mustard gas type stuff. And he decided to use it to his advantage. And he actually had a kind of successful career, always playing like the monster or the bad guy in a movie, because people thought he looked scary. Ugly white guys, they like television, but what are their favorite shows? This is just so weird. But man, look at these amazing faces. Everyone has got character coming out the wazoo. And they're all just listing their favorite TV shows. It seems like Me and the Chimp is the most popular one. I've never even seen that show. That kind of looks like a chubby Bill Murray. God, these faces are so much character. So interesting. I think I get why they like to draw old, weird guys. It's way more interesting than drawing like handsome, pretty people. This is a guy named Dwayne Doberman. I think he was on Sergeant Bilko. So he was a beloved comedian. I don't know if this is exaggerating it, but they make it seem like everywhere he went, he was lauded, given the key to the city. He'd go to another country and then give him a special medal and stuff. I don't think that was probably true, but it's kind of funny. Imagine this big this goofball, and everyone around the world just loves him. He does have a great face. What's not to love? Here's Beaver Facts. This is all about Leave It to Beaver. I didn't know this. After Leave It to Beaver, that same creator made the Munsters. They talk about the beaver rumor. When I was a kid, I heard this all the time. Supposedly, Beaver grew up and died in Vietnam. And supposedly, Eddie Haskell grew up to be Johnny Wad, the famous porn star. In truth, he became an LA cop. God, he captures Tony Dow's total dorkiness so well. This guy was actually a heartthrob. Teenage girls loved him, but look at that face. What a turd. Bill Cullen on the wild side? I guess this guy was a game show host. Mostly forgotten. I think he was like the early days of television. Great art, though. I mean, I'm sure he looks just like that, knowing Drew Friedman, you know? Here's some more of those fake movies. God, do I love an Ed cream. Crisis for me, but God, do I love an Ed cream. We see Buddy Hackett. And I love this one. Let me see this picture of Jesus all drawn straight, and it's Joe E. Ross. Ooh, Jesus. Variety, spice, and everything nice. I can't even wrap my head around what this movie would be like. But I would fucking pay maybe $100 to see it if it was real. He was Wacky World, and we see all these famous celebrities palling around with serial killers and assassins. Milton Berle, Lee Harvey Oswald. David Berkowitz, Son of Sam with red buttons. They kind of look alike. God, I love that drawing of Charles Manson. Really good. Edward Gein and Buddy Hackett. So there's a lot of comics of this guy, the Lord of Eltingville. I don't know what the hell this is based on. I know there wasn't anyone to look like this. But he has this certain weird... He's almost like Zippy the Pinhead. He goes through life just spouting non sequiturs. But almost like the guy in Being There, the Peter Sellers movie. Even though he's kind of a weirdo who just spouts non sequiturs, he's totally has access to the highest levels of power. Everywhere he goes, he's treated like a celebrity or almost like monarchy. He seems to know everyone, even though he can't even say a sentence that's coherent. He's a very interesting character. And it's so fucking weird. I guess he's almost like Henry, the comic strip character. Maybe he's his uncle. Just having no mouth and a big round chin where his mouth should be. Oh, God. So many lines in here are funny. I think a lot of these comic strips wouldn't wash with the unironic generation of today. They would just be like, that's not funny. But I'm sorry, it's funny as fuck. He was a Lord of Eltingville and his pal Frank Sinatra. They have this whole comic about how they're lifelong friends. God, that's such a good drawing of Frank Sinatra. Tor Johnson meets the Lord of Eltingville on a train. I love how all of his Tor Johnson strips, he just draws him as the zombie from Plan 9 from Outer Space. Just walking around, mouth agape, talking like the Hulk. Like, Tor, not like. The Lord of Eltingville takes a liking to him, though. He was more Tor Johnson. Probably after the Lord of Eltingville, or equal, Tor Johnson is the... Drew Friedman's probably done more comics about him. In fact, they were like kind of linked for a while. We see Tor Johnson. He's in New York. A prostitute kind of picks him up. He's this total naive child in a way. She says, "Okay, Kong, what's your preference?" And he's just like, "Lemon sherbet?" God, that face just cracks me up. If you actually knew a guy walking around like that all the time. I think this is one of the, an early strip that I read, at least. I remember this one where he's in nature. He pees off of a bridge and there's some bum sleeping under it. So he throws a rocket to his head. Next time, Tor make number 2. It's like so dumb. But it makes me laugh every time. Just the way that rock hits his head, bonk. There's something else about it. He does this a lot. Look how amazingly illustrated this is. This is like, Joseph Clement Cole or something. The amazing illustrators from 1890s and 1900. And yet, the cartoony speed lines of the rock, very simple rock, and the simple sound effect. This could be from a Blondie strip. But look at the art here. The way he just draws this foliage, and it's remarkable. Dick Clark models rock hairstyles. Kind of dumb. That's what I think my least favorite one. Dick Clark gives his American Bandstand replacement a few pointers. And we see Dick Clark with all of his unguents and anti-aging creams. Because you youngins might know Dick Clark was it was a running gag that he never ages. For decades he was on TV. This one is so dead on. On a search for new musical inspiration, David Byrne unexpectedly runs into Paul Simon. And I love this. They're in pith helmets. They're basically on a musical safari to see which, indigenous sounds they can poach for their next record. Successful, important entertainer, educator, author Bill Cosby is never too busy to consider a financial opportunity, and he's reaching into the quarter slot of the phone. And this is before Drew Friedman could make a much crueler strip about him now. If Drew Friedman still drew strips, but he doesn't. All he does is illustration now. Kind of a thing about Dan Aykroyd with his webbed toes. This is almost something I think maybe I read it happened. Republican National Committee Chairman Lee Atwater entertained some friends with a Negro spiritual, and he's in blackface. And all of his rich white Republican friends are laughing their asses off. I just love this picture of Reagan poking Gorbachev and his birthmark on his head. This is George Bush Sr. And Vice President Dan Quayle enjoying some quality time. I like how they look just like the happiest family, but then look in the back, his wife is just sitting there in horror. This is kind of interesting. It's a poem called Alliteration, and it's really kind of sophomoric. It reads like something a clever college, or at least a college kid who thought he was clever, would write. And it turns out it's by Leo Gorcey from the Dead End Kids, or the Bowery Boys, depending on what era you watch them. It's terrible, but I guess he published a book of poetry in 1967, and Drew Friedman got his hands on this. And probably just to be cruel. Once again, he just wanted to show off what an idiot, of course, he was. But he also draws this beautiful portrait of him. And this is interesting here because this poem is about like nuclear destruction and stuff in a poetic manner. And so I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong about this, but this almost looks like Drew Friedman sampled these topsy-turvy buildings from those great Basil Wolverton apocalyptic drawings he did for that church magazine. I'm positive I recognize that. Because, it's almost cartoony the way they're like, buildings wouldn't collapse like that. They just, fall into rubble. But Basil Wolverton drew them all like a bunch of building blocks got knocked over by a dog. This is really fun. Glossary guide for the perplexed. And all these weird pop culture cast-offs and scoundrels. He gives us a little glossary because a lot of people probably don't even know who he's talking about. Even back then they didn't, because Drew Friedman was almost like an old man in his taste. He loved all these characters from the 40s and 50s. Remember, this is 1990. He wasn't even, maybe he was a small child then, but he just loves that era, you know, that old-timiness. So there's a lot of funny things in here. Of course, it lets him be even more cruel. Certain comedians will just be like, Buddy Hackett, annoying, unfunny comedian of film, TV, and nightclubs. Oh, look at this Mount Rushmore of entertainment here. And here's little bios of Drew and Josh Allen. A beautiful back cover, too. Another mug mutant. And we got some quotes from reviews. So there you have it, guys. Essential book to own. Just, even if you don't like the humor, you know, some people, ever since I was a kid, there's some people who don't like Drew Friedman stuff because it's like, it's kind of cruel. And I guess I'm a dick because I don't care. I think it's just hilarious. But even if you don't like it, just as an art book, like, I mean, you just saw his art. Nobody draws like this. It's insane. And I got to save this cover just for the raised up boils and stuff and warts. I love it. I love running my hand across it. And other parts of my anatomy. Just kidding. So there you go, guys. Warts and All by Drew Friedman and Josh Allen Friedman. Probably not in print. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody reprinted this. It wouldn't be unwise. I'm sure plenty of people would love to buy this all over again. But I don't know. I don't think it's expensive. Penguin published it. A lot of these probably ended up in remainder bins, you know. So look for it if you can find it. Even if it's not that cheap, it's worth it. I mean, God, I'd pay like fucking $40 for a book this nice now. If it was just all Drew Friedman comics, because he doesn't draw comics anymore. He hasn't drawn a comic in decades. All he does is draw presidents and old Jewish comedians and, you know, just headshots of them. Beautiful, but I love his comics a lot. And Josh Allen. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.